If you're looking to buy a luxury car, you need to lease it. The reason that I recommend leasing is because it gives you a lot more protection from downside risk than buying a car ever will. Let's get out of the way the elephant in the room. Vehicles depreciate. With the exception of some very rare and hard to get vehicles, vehicles become less valuable every day that they are on the road. So for that reason, buying a car versus leasing a car isn't some advantage like it is in home buying, right? If you own a home, homes generally appreciate. It's a very different thing than a car. Cars are depreciating assets. So why do I like leasing so much? Well, it's no secret that luxury vehicles, more than others, depreciate very heavily in their first couple of years. There's a lot of reasons for this, primarily that the people that buy luxury vehicles are much more willing to pay for something new where they can get exactly what they want. Once it becomes used, they're less interested, and that pushes the resale value of these vehicles down because it needs to get to be a certain level of good deal before a luxury consumer is willing to go with the used option. So when you buy a car, you're opening yourself up to a tremendous amount of risk. If the car is ever in an accident, and that is reflected on your Carfax, that is immediately a multi-$1,000 deduct on the vehicle, and that will follow you for the rest of the time that you own it. So you need to be thinking about, when I buy a vehicle, no matter how I pay for it, what will my exit strategy be? Because all of us will get a new car at some point down the road. Some take longer than others, but generally speaking, most Americans are getting a new car every 3 years. So if you're somebody who's getting a car every couple of years, then leasing is the way to go, because when you get to that end of the lease, you have options. We can look at the market value of your car versus what your residual value is, which would be your buyout price. And we can see, does it make sense to buy out the car based on what it's worth compared to what I can buy it for? If the vehicle is worth less than the buyout price, then we know it's time to look at a new lease and take advantage of various loyalty programs and incentives that qualify for people that are returning to the same brand. So again, also, with most leases, if you get into an accident, and it's repaired properly, of course, that is not going to affect your value. It's not going to penalize you at the end of the lease. So people that are against leasing usually have one common complaint, which is I've got nothing to show for it at the end of it, and they're very restrictive in miles. The reality of it is, just because manufacturers advertise 10,000-mile leases, there are many, many options available to you to go above and beyond that. Mercedes-Benz alone has 7,500, 10,000, 12,000, 15,000, 20,000-mile leases, and really you can go any amount of miles beyond the 20,000. So high-mile lease drivers still can get themselves a great deal and protect themselves from a lot of downside risk and depreciation when you buy it. So the final point I'll leave you with is that when you buy a car, you own whatever happens to the value of that vehicle down the road. If you buy a car that happens to depreciate more aggressively than you might have imagined, that is going to be completely felt by you. That burden of depreciation falls on you alone, whether you paid cash for it or you financed it. If you lease it, it really doesn't matter because you have a guaranteed exit strategy from the day that you buy the car. If it's a 3-year lease, you know exactly what your buyout price will be at the end of 3 years. And then if the car does well and holds its value well, you're probably going to have equity. If it doesn't hold its value well, not your problem. You get to turn it in, walk away, get a new car. So if you really look at vehicles as depreciating assets, then leasing becomes a more clear picture. The other advantages to it are always owning a car under warranty, not hitting major service intervals, not having to replace things like tires and brakes, and again, having those protections built in. Mercedes-Benz, for example, will include gap insurance on leases, so if you do total the car, that's going to be taken care of for you. So at the end of the day, if you're one of those people on a 3-year cycle for getting a new vehicle, leasing should 100% be a consideration. And none of this advice is meant to be super sound and intelligent financial advice, because the reality of it is paying the kind of money that we pay for cars when we know they're depreciating assets is technically not a very financially wise decision. However, we as Americans do have love affairs with our vehicles. We do like to get new vehicles every couple of years. They are a major part of our life. So understanding that it will always be something important in our lives, it will always be a want and a need, we can do what is the most sensible thing for our financial pocketbooks, and not necessarily the wisest financial thing overall, which of course would probably be to buy a very, very old, import car for a couple $1,000s and run it until the wheels fall off. But if that's not the type of person that you are, you need to be considering leasing.